Uncle Jim Buckle and Uncle Bill Shea rode on Jim's bridge one fine summer's day, when a racket broke out, as is often the case, over whose boat was fastest, and who'd win in a race, and whose could stand the most lop or hold the most fish, and which one was cranky, and which one was nish, and which one was better for out at the turs, and which one rode scowaways, and which one leaked worse. Sure, they couldn't even agree on what it was that they had, and that's when they turned off from Crousty to mad. "It's a Rodney," said Jim, "and you're stunned as a killick." And Bill said, "'Tis a punt, boy, you foolish old twillick." Then Jim said he'd settle things once and for all by telling the story of what happened last fall. He was out in his vessel for a meal of cod with his good buddy Phonse, and Phonse is a dog. Now Jim had 10 fish and was headed for the tickle, where he figured he'd split them and put them in pickle, when up roared the fisheries in the big Zodiac and came alongside of Jim with a bit of a smack. Then this fellow started clucking like a foolish old hen. "You're allowed only 5 fish, sir. How come you got 10? "Don't be so stunned, boy," was Jim's quick response. "I got 5 for me, and I got 5 for Phonse." Well, that didn't get Jim far, as well you might know. "Heave to," said the fisheries, "and we'll take you in tow." "Some chance now," said Jim, as he picked up his oars. "You won't be towing me with that old tub of yours." "No, sir," said the fisheries. "I think we'll call the shots. We got 2 big Hondas and can do 90 knots. "Mind now," said Jim, "if I don't burst a wit, I'll leave you behind and I won't break a sweat." Well, Jim set his oars and he started to row, with the fisheries coming along behind pretty slow, till all of a sudden things was all spray and froth. Jim had hit 20 knots, with his vessel planed off. Jim picked up speed, and it wasn't long before the fisheries was behind by a mile or more. Then the order came down, "Boys, give her full speed, before that old fellow makes fools out of we." Soon they hit 90 knots and started to close. The gap Jim had opened, a couple of miles, I suppose. Then just as they caught up and hauled alongside, Jim give her the gas and left the fisheries to bide. "Huh," said Uncle Bill. "I'd like to know how you got her up over 90. That's all I can do." "Well, boy," said Jim, "I was tired, you see, so Phonse took a turn. Yeah, he's faster than me." "Well, I suppose it's all true," Bill said after a spell. "But put on the kittle now and wait till I tell you what happened to me when I was just a young tar. Oh, a long time ago it was, back in the war. I was out at the turs with my young fellow Mark, and we were headed for home, and it was just getting dark. We had a bit of a breeze, but it wasn't too bad, till Mark went and lit up a smoke that he had. Then this big German sub come up from below and give us some fright. Yes, sir, no, I know. He was about a gunshot off, and right on our lee, and he hauled off and fired a tar whizzing at we. Well, Sir Mark was some cross, and I wasn't too glad, so I picked up the old muzzle-loader I had, and to show that we didn't think too much of their joke, I let drive with 6 fingers and shot out their scope. Down went the sub in 10 seconds or so. "Now, Mark," says I, "suppose we'll let that one go." "Some chance now," he said. "I wants a word with that captain. So take a good breath now, father. We're going down after him." And that's why we did not a word of a lie, 50 fathom or more, until by and by we got sight of that sub down there in the dark, and then I found 2 good lines and passed them to Mark. He made fast to their rudder with both of those lines and took 2 or 3 hitches up into the risings. By this time we'd been down 10 minutes or near, and 'twas time to come up for a breath of fresh air. So we started on up, heading west for the shore. The sub was going east at 10 knots or more. We took up the slack, and the sub brought up solid. Then they give her the gas, sir, just like that cat that was scalded. 'Twas touch and go, I suppose, for 5 minutes or more, till Mark come on hard with the big sculling oar. Then the boys on the sub saw 'twas no use, and we hauled that old thing right back home to renews. "Huh," said Uncle Jim, when he spoke by and by. "Oh, yeah," said Bill, "not a word of a lie. He'd used the old sub right up to last year. 'Twas the clear thing, he said, getting rum from St. Pierre." "I suppose now," said Jim. "Oh, yeah," Bill replied. "I know now we never give that sub crowd some ride." Then the 2 of them sat there, and no more was said, and if looks could have killed, sir, they'd both have been dead. Now I'd been sitting there listening to all this, you see. "Now, boys," I said, "shake hands and agree." "And that's what I want," Jim said right off the bat. Bill said for sure he was in favour against that. Then they went right back at it about Rodneys and punts. "Give it up, boys," I said, "or I'm leaving the once." And then a funny thing happened on that bridge by and by. And remember now, I'm the one who don't lie. "Well, you 2 shut up," said a voice from below. "I'm trying to get a nap here in case you don't know. This is not a Rodney or a punt," said the voice between yawns. "It's a dory. End of story. Now be quiet," said Phonse.